They thought we were prey. Now they're fleeing from us. The stars stretched endlessly before the colony ship Meridian Dawn as it traveled through the darkness of space. Captain Minho sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the display screens show nothing but empty void. They had been traveling for 8 months now, carrying 3,000 colonists toward a new world. Earth was running out of resources and humanity needed new homes among the stars. Minho was tired. The responsibility of so many lives weighed heavily on him. He looked around at his crew. Ji-won sat at the communication station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. Dabin stood near the weapons console, though they had never needed to use it. The Meridian Dawn was not a warship. It was a vessel of hope, carrying families and dreams. The alarm shattered the peaceful silence. Ji-won's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. "Captain, multiple contacts just appeared on sensors. They came out of nowhere." Her voice trembled slightly. "I count 15 ships, maybe more. They're surrounding us." Minho felt his stomach drop. In all their months of travel, they had never encountered another species. Earth scientists had debated for decades whether humanity was alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and Minho suddenly wished they were still wondering. "Hail them," Minho ordered, keeping his voice steady. "All frequencies. Tell them we come in peace." Ji-won worked frantically at her station. "Sending now, Captain." No response yet. "Wait, I'm picking up transmissions between their ships, running it through the translation program." She fell silent, listening. Her face went pale. "Sir, they're not speaking to us." "They're speaking about us? The translation is rough, but they're calling us prey. They're discussing how weak we look." Dabin moved to the weapons station. "Captain, those ships are powering up weapons. Whatever they are, they're not friendly." Before Minho could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the bridge. Engineer Hyun's voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain, we've been hit with some kind of electromagnetic pulse. Main engines are offline. I'm trying to restart them, but it will take time." "How much time?" Minho demanded. 30 minutes, maybe more," Hyun replied. They did not have 30 minutes. The alien ships moved closer, surrounding the Meridian Dawn like predators circling wounded prey. Through the view screen, Minho could finally see them clearly. The vessels were dark and angular, covered in what looked like armor plating. They were built for war, not exploration. "They're launching something," Ji-won reported. "Smaller craft heading straight for us, boarding pods." The aliens were coming inside. Minho hit the ship-wide intercom. "This is the captain. We are being boarded by hostile forces. All security personnel to defensive positions. Civilians to safe rooms immediately. This is not a drill." Dabin was already moving toward the armory. "I'll organize the defense teams," he said, his military training taking over. The Meridian Dawn had security officers, but they were meant to handle disputes among colonists, not fight off alien invaders. The first pod struck the hull with a metallic crash that echoed through the ship. Then another, and another. Minho could hear them through the walls like deadly rain hammering against their home. In the lower decks, Dabin gathered everyone who could hold a weapon. They had stun guns, a few old-style firearms, and not much else. When the airlocks began to open, they got their first look at the enemy. The Valthrex were massive creatures standing over 7 feet tall with thick, armored skin that looked almost like scales. Their eyes glowed with a predatory hunger, and they carried weapons that crackled with energy. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never lost a fight. The first Valthrex warrior stepped into the corridor and sneered at the humans. It said something in its growling language, and its companions laughed. They thought this would be easy. Dabin fired first. His stun gun hit the lead Valthrex, but the creature barely flinched. It raised its weapon, and energy bolts filled the corridor. 2 security officers went down immediately. The humans retreated, but there was nowhere to go. In the engineering section, Hyun was not trying to fight. He was thinking. The aliens had technology, but technology could be turned against them. He grabbed tools and chemicals from the maintenance supplies. If he could not shoot them, maybe he could trap them. Working quickly, Hyun rigged explosives from fuel cells and plasma conduits. He set them in doorways and corridors, places the aliens would have to pass through. They were crude bombs, but they would work. The first Valthrex squad triggered one of Hyun's traps. The explosion tore through the corridor, and the screams of the aliens echoed through the ship. They had not expected that. The prey was fighting back with cunning, not just fear. In the medical bay, Dr. Soman had her own idea. She could not fight with guns, but she knew chemistry. She mixed compounds from the medical supplies, creating acids and toxic gases. When Valthrex warriors broke into the medical section, they found themselves choking and burning. Their armor protected them from bullets, but not from chemical weapons. For 2 hours, the battle raged through the Meridian Dawn. The humans lost ground steadily. The Valthrex were stronger, faster, and better armed. But every meter they advanced cost them blood. The humans fought with a desperation the aliens had never encountered before. They used traps, ambushes, and weapons made from whatever they could find. In the science laboratories, young scientist Yunji watched as Valthrex warriors smashed through the doors. She grabbed the research samples, expensive equipment, anything valuable, trying to protect years of work. A massive clawed hand seized her arm and she screamed. Captain Minho heard the screams through the intercom as the Valthrex dragged away captives. 12 humans were taken, including Unji. He tried to reach them, but Dabin held him back. "We can't save them if we're dead," Dabin said, his voice rough with emotion. Then, as suddenly as it began, the attack stopped. The Valthrex withdrew to their ships, taking their captives and their wounded. Through the communication system, G1 intercepted one final transmission. The translation made Minho's blood run cold. "These creatures fight harder than expected. We lost 30 warriors. For prey, they are troublesome. We will take what we captured and leave the rest to die in space. Their ship is crippled." The alien vessels departed, vanishing the same way they had appeared. The Meridian Dawn was left floating dead in space, engines offline, hull breached in a dozen places. Of the 3,000 people who had started this journey, 247 were dead. 12 were taken. Minho stood on the bridge looking at the stars. His ship was broken. His people were terrified. And somewhere out there, the aliens held his crew members as prisoners. Hyun's voice came over the intercom, weak but determined. "Captain, I can fix the engines. It will take time, but I can do it." Minho nodded, though Hyun could not see him. "Do it. Do whatever it takes." Dabin approached, his uniform torn and bloodied. "What are our orders, Captain?" Minho turned to face his crew. In their eyes he saw fear, but he also saw anger and something else. Something the aliens had not expected to find in their prey. He saw determination. "We're going to survive," Minho said quietly. "We're going to repair this ship. We're going to find our people, and we're going to teach those aliens the biggest mistake they ever made." "What mistake?" Jiwon asked. Minho's eyes were hard as steel. "Thinking humans were prey. They judged us by our appearance. They saw us as weak because we don't have armor or claws. They don't know what humans really are." "What are we?" Dabin asked. "We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues. We're the species that turned wolves into pets and climbed to the top of our food chain with nothing but pointed sticks and stubborn will. We're persistence hunters. We don't quit. Ever." Minho activated the ship-wide intercom one more time. His voice carried to every survivor on the Meridian Dawn. "They attacked us because they thought we were weak. They took our people because they thought we would die quietly. They're wrong. We're going to show them what happens when you make an enemy of humanity. We're going to get our people back. And before this is over, those aliens will learn to fear us." In the darkness of space, the broken colony ship began to come back to life. Lights flickered on. Systems rebooted. Humans worked together, repairing, planning, preparing. The Valthrex had made humanity their prey. Soon they would learn that humans were predators too, the most dangerous kind, the kind that never stopped hunting. They thought we were prey. Now they're fleeing from us. 3 weeks had passed since the attack. The Meridian Dawn limped through space toward the nearest star system, moving slowly on damaged engines. Every day, Hyun worked miracles just to keep them moving forward. Every night, the survivors mourned their dead and worried about their captured friends. Jiwon barely slept anymore. She sat at her communication station for 18 hours each day, listening to alien transmissions and trying to learn everything she could about their enemy. The translation program improved slowly, and what she learned made her sick with fear and anger. "Captain, you need to hear this," she said one morning, her eyes red from exhaustion. Minho came to her station. Around them, the bridge crew gathered close. They all needed to know what they faced. Ji-won played a recording. The translation appeared on screen as harsh alien voices spoke. The Valthrex Empire controls 47 star systems. We are the apex predators of this region of space. All other species exist to serve us or to die. The strong rule. The weak submit. This is the natural order. Another transmission followed. Today's hunt was profitable. We captured specimens from 6 different species. The market for exotic prey is strong. Noble families will pay well for the chance to hunt sentient creatures. It proves their superiority. Minho felt rage burning in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. They hunt people for sport? Yes, Ji-won said. From what I've gathered, the Valthrex have built an empire on conquest. They see themselves as the ultimate predators. Any species they meet is either enslaved or killed. Sometimes both. She pulled up more data. They've destroyed at least 15 civilizations completely. Made them extinct. Just wiped them out. Dabin cursed under his breath. And our people? Ji-won hesitated. There are references to a hunting preserve on a planet they call Kravik. It's a private facility where wealthy Valthrex pay to hunt rare prey. I think that's where they took our people. The bridge fell silent. Everyone imagined their friends and colleagues being hunted through alien jungles like animals. The thought was unbearable. Can we find this place? Minho asked. I have coordinates, Ji-won said. It's 3 months away at our current speed. Maybe less if Hyun can coax more power from the engines. Minho made his decision instantly. Set course. We're getting our people back. On the planet Kravik, Yunji and the other 11 humans were learning to survive. They had been transported in cages like livestock and released into a massive preserve that covered thousands of miles. Dense jungle surrounded them, filled with alien plants and dangerous creatures. Their Valthrex captors had given them basic supplies and 1 day to prepare. Then the hunting would begin. We're going to die here, one of the colonists sobbed. His name was Junho, a farmer who had never hurt anyone in his life. Yunji grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. No, we're not. Listen to me. We're smarter than them. They're bigger, stronger, and armed, another captive said. Her name was Yuna, a teacher. What chance do we have? Every chance, said a quiet voice. They all turned to see Tai Yang, a former soldier who had retired to become a colonist. He had been quiet since their capture, watching and learning. Now his military training showed in his eyes. The Valthrex think we're prey. That's their mistake. Prey runs, predators hunt. We need to become predators. Over the next day, Taeyang taught them everything he knew, how to move quietly through terrain, how to set traps, how to use the environment as a weapon. Most importantly, how to think like a soldier instead of a victim. Yunji used her scientific knowledge to study their surroundings. She identified poisonous plants, found sources of clean water, and mapped the terrain. The Valthrex had given them basic tools, probably to make the hunt more interesting. Yunji turned those tools into weapons. When the first hunting party arrived, they expected to find frightened humans running through the jungle. Instead, they found an empty campsite with signs of struggle. The Valthrex followed the trail eagerly, weapons ready. The trap was simple but effective, a tripwire made from vines connected to a bent tree. When the lead Valthrex triggered it, sharpened stakes swung down with deadly force. The alien's armor saved its life, but barely. Its companions rushed to help, and that was when the humans struck from hiding. They had made spears from wood and sharpened stone. They had acids extracted from plants. They moved as a coordinated team, hitting from multiple angles and then vanishing into the jungle. One Valthrex went down screaming as acid burned through its armor. Another fell when Taeyang drove a spear through a weak point at its neck. The hunting party retreated in confusion. Their prey was fighting back. More than fighting, they were hunting. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more hunting parties entered the preserve. None of them succeeded. The humans moved constantly, never staying in one place. They set traps everywhere. They used psychological warfare, leaving disturbing signs and sounds to unnerve their hunters. They attacked when the Valthrex were tired or separated. Yunji found something during one of their movements through the preserve. It was a communication relay, probably used by the preserve's staff. The technology was far beyond human understanding, but Yunji was a scientist. She studied it obsessively. I think I can activate it, she told Taeyang one night. They were hiding in a cave, taking turns sleeping while others kept watch. Can you send a message? Taeyang asked. Maybe. If I can figure out the frequency and encoding. It might reach the Meridian Dawn if they're close enough. Do it, Taeyang said. Even if it brings more Valthrex, we need to try. Yunji worked for 3 days, carefully manipulating the alien technology. Finally, she managed to send a simple signal. It was just a beacon, really, broadcasting their location, but it was enough. The signal traveled through space, bouncing off relay stations until it reached the meridian dawn. Jiwan nearly cried when she detected it. "Captain, I found them!" "I have their location." Minho leaned over her shoulder, hardly daring to hope. "Are you certain?" "The signal is weak but clear. It's definitely human origin, and it's coming from Kravik." "They're alive, Captain." The bridge erupted in cheers. Their people were alive. After weeks of fear and uncertainty, they had hope again. But hope was not enough. They still had to mount a rescue across hostile alien territory. Hyun had been working on more than just engines. In the weeks since the attack, he had studied every piece of Valthrek's technology they had salvaged from the boarding. He had taken apart their weapons, analyzed their armor, and reverse-engineered what he could. "Captain, I have something to show you," Hyun said, leading Minho to the engineering bay. What Minho saw made him smile for the first time in weeks. Hyun had built weapons, real weapons. Energy rifles based on Valthrek's designs but improved with human engineering. Armor plating salvaged from their hull and reinforced. Even a few explosive devices that looked frighteningly powerful. "The Valthrek's technology is advanced, but it's not efficient," Hyun explained. "They rely on brute force. I've made ours lighter, faster, and more powerful. We won't match their numbers, but we can match their firepower." Dabin picked up one of the rifles, testing its weight. "How many can you make?" "Enough for a strike team of 20, Hyun said. "Maybe 30 if you give me another week." "You have 3 days, Minho said. "We're not leaving our people there any longer than necessary." While Hyun worked, Minho sent a message back to Earth. It was a risk because they did not know if more Valthrek's ships might intercept it. But humanity needed to know the truth. They were not alone in the universe, and their neighbors were hostile. The message was simple and direct. Minho explained what had happened, described the Valthrek's empire, and warned that Earth might be in danger. He included all the data Jiwan had gathered about Valthrek's technology and tactics. Then he added a personal note. "We were attacked because we seemed weak. The Valthreks judged us by appearance and decided we were prey. They were wrong. I'm taking a strike team to rescue our people. If I don't make it back, someone needs to continue this fight. Humanity cannot let this stand. We need to show the galaxy what we really are, not prey. Never prey." The message would take months to reach Earth. Minho hoped it would arrive in time to make a difference. He hoped Earth would mobilize, would prepare, would take the threat seriously. But he could not wait for Earth's response. His people needed him now. 3 days later, the meridian dawn entered orbit around Kravik. The planet was beautiful, covered in green jungles and blue oceans. It looked peaceful. But Minho knew what horrors happened on its surface. Dabin had assembled the strike team. 20 volunteers, including himself. All of them wore Hyun's improvised armor and carried the new weapons. They knew they might not come back. They came anyway. "Remember," Dabin told his team, "the Valthreks expect prey. They expect fear. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. Human determination, human anger, and human vengeance." Minho watched them prepare and felt a mixture of pride and dread. He was sending people into terrible danger, but they were also bringing hope. As the strike team boarded the shuttle, Jiwan approached Minho with one more piece of information. "Captain, I've been analyzing Valthrek's military communications. Their empire is vast, but it's also arrogant. They've never faced real resistance. Every species they conquered either died quickly or submitted. They thought we were prey. Now they're fleeing from us." The shuttle descended through Kravik's atmosphere under cover of darkness. Dabin sat in the pilot's seat, guiding them down carefully to avoid detection. The 20 humans in the strike team checked their weapons nervously. They had trained for 3 days, but this was real. They were going into combat against an enemy that had defeated them before. Minho's voice came through their communication devices. He remained on the Meridian Dawn, coordinating the rescue. "Remember the plan. Get in quietly. No shooting unless necessary. Find our people and extract them. We're not trying to win a war today. We're just bringing our family home." The shuttle landed 5 miles from the Valthrek's base. Through their scopes, the humans could see the facility clearly. It was large and well defended, with guard towers and patrols. The Valthrics were confident, moving casually as if they had nothing to fear. That confidence would be their downfall. For 2 days, the strike team watched. They studied guard rotations, mapped entry points, and identified weaknesses. They did not attack. They learned. This was not the Valthrics way. The aliens would have charged in immediately, trusting in their superior strength. But humans were patient predators. Inside the preserve, Yunji and her group had been fighting for their lives for weeks. They had killed 5 Valthrics hunters and injured many more. The preserve staff was getting frustrated. This was supposed to be easy hunting. Instead, their clients were being embarrassed and hurt by primitive prey. Taiyang led the captives in one more ambush. A wealthy Valthrics noble had paid enormous sums for the privilege of hunting humans. He entered the jungle with 4 bodyguards, all heavily armed. They followed the human trail confidently. The humans led them to a riverbank. There, Taiyang had set his most elaborate trap. When the Valthrics crossed the shallow water, hidden ropes tightened around their legs. They fell hard, and before they could recover, sharpened stakes fired from concealed positions. 2 bodyguards went down immediately. The noble roared in rage and fired his weapon wildly. Energy bolts destroyed trees and set the jungle ablaze, but the humans were already gone, melting into the undergrowth like ghosts. That night, the preserve staff held an emergency meeting. The transmissions reached the orbiting Meridian Dawn, and Jiwan translated them for Minho. "They're talking about terminating the humans," she said, her voice tight with fear. "Not capture anymore. Kill on sight. They've had enough. How long before they act?" Minho asked. "Tomorrow morning. They're sending a military squad, not hunters. 20 soldiers with orders to eliminate the prey." Minho made his decision instantly. "Tell Dabin to move now. Tonight, we're out of time." The message reached the strike team and they prepared to attack. Dabin gathered them close. "This is it. We go in fast and hard. Team 1 takes the communication center. Team 2 hits the power generators. Team 3 goes for the cells where they're holding prisoners. I'll lead Team 4 to find our people in the preserve." One of the volunteers, a young woman named Minji, asked the question they were all thinking. What if the Valthrics fight back? Dabin smiled grimly. "Then we show them that humans don't just fight. We win." The attack began at midnight. The humans moved like shadows, using the darkness and their smaller size as advantages. Team 1 reached the communication center without being detected. They planted explosives and retreated. When the charges detonated, the entire facility went dark and silent. The Valthrics could not call for help. Team 2 hit the power generators seconds later. More explosions rocked the base. Emergency lights flickered on, but they were weak. The Valthrics base descended into chaos. Confused guards ran toward the explosions, thinking they were under attack from outside. They never expected the enemy was already inside. Team 3 emerged from hiding and opened fire with their energy rifles. The weapons Hyun had built worked perfectly, cutting through Valthrics' armor like paper. The aliens were tough, but they were not prepared. In their entire history, prey had never attacked them. They froze in confusion for just a moment, and that moment cost them their lives. Dabin led Team 4 into the jungle, following the signal from Yunji's stolen communicator. They moved fast, weapons ready. In the darkness, they heard sounds of combat. Valthric soldiers were already entering the preserve, starting their extermination mission early. "Double time," Dabin ordered. "Our people are in danger." They found Yunji's group pinned down in a rocky outcrop. Valthric soldiers surrounded them, firing energy weapons that chipped away at the stone. The humans were out of traps and nearly out of options. Taeyang fired back with a captured alien weapon, but they were badly outnumbered. Then Dabin's team hit the Valthrics from behind. The aliens never saw them coming. The strike team opened fire with disciplined precision, their weapons blazing in the darkness. Valthric soldiers fell screaming. Those who tried to fight back found themselves facing enemies who moved like they could see in the dark, who fought with coordination and skill. The Valthrics broke and ran. For the first time in their history, they retreated from prey. Dabin reached Yunji's position and pulled her up. "Time to go home," he said, grinning. Yunji almost cried with relief. "You came for us. Of course we did. Your family." The combined human force fought their way back to the base. More Valthric soldiers responded, but they were disorganized and confused. The humans used smoke grenades, flashbangs, and psychological warfare tactics the aliens had never encountered. They shouted in the darkness, making the Valthrex think they were surrounded by dozens of enemies, instead of just 40 humans. At the base, Team 3 had freed 24 other captives from various species. Some were too weak or injured to run, so the humans carried them. No one was left behind. The shuttle waited where they had landed it. Dabin organized the retreat while covering fire kept the Valthrex at bay. One by one, humans and freed prisoners boarded the shuttle. The last to enter was Taeyang, still firing his captured weapon at pursuing Valthrex soldiers. "Go, go, go," Dabin shouted at the pilot. The shuttle lifted off just as Valthrex reinforcements arrived. Energy bolts struck the hull but did not penetrate. Hyun's armor held. Minutes later, they were in orbit, docking with the Meridian Dawn. But Dabin had one more thing to do before they left. They had captured 5 Valthrex during the raid, including a base commander. Dabin dragged the commander to the communication center and forced him to contact his superiors. The alien resisted until Dabin placed a weapon against its head. "Send the message or I pull the trigger," Dabin said coldly. "Your choice," the commander sent the message. On the other end, Valthrex military leaders listened in disbelief as their officer spoke in a trembling voice. "The humans have escaped. They attacked our facility with military precision. They defeated our soldiers. They freed their captives and others. The prey fought back and we could not stop them." Dabin leaned close to the communication device and spoke in clear, simple words. "This is Security Chief Dabin of the human vessel Meridian Dawn. You attacked us. You killed our people. You took prisoners and tried to hunt them like animals. That was your mistake. You thought we were prey. You judged us by how we looked and decided we were weak. You were wrong." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humans are not prey. We're the species that survived everything our planet could throw at us. We hunted animals bigger and stronger than us. We turned predators into pets. We climbed to the top of the food chain with nothing but our intelligence and our refusal to quit. And now you've made us angry." Dabin gestured, and one of his team members activated a recording. It showed footage from the raid. Valthrex soldiers running in fear. Human weapons cutting through their armor. The mighty Empire's warriors defeated by the species they considered weak. "We're sending this message to every Valthrex vessel we can reach," Dabin continued. "We want you all to see it. We want you to understand. You started this war. You attacked first. But we're going to finish it. Every time you hunt another species, every time you take prisoners, every time you think you're the apex predators, remember this. Remember that humans fought back, and we won." He released the Valthrex commander and his officers. They would be put in a shuttle and sent back to their people. Dabin wanted them alive to spread the message. Fear was a weapon, and he intended to use it. As the Meridian Dawn prepared to depart Kravik, Minho gathered everyone in the main cargo bay. Rescued prisoners, strike team members, and crew all crowded together. They were battered and exhausted but alive. "We won today," Minho said. "But this is just the beginning. The message I sent to Earth will take months to arrive. We're on our own out here. The Valthrex Empire is vast and powerful. They won't forget what we did here." Yunji stepped forward, still dirty from weeks in the jungle but standing tall. "Good, let them remember. Let them know that humans don't surrender. We don't give up. And we protect our own." Taeyang nodded in agreement. "I was a soldier on Earth. I retired because I was tired of fighting. But I'll fight again for this. The Valthrex need to learn that there are consequences for their actions." Dabin raised his weapon high. "They thought we were prey. Now they know different. Now they know we're predators too." The crowd cheered. Their voices echoed through the ship, carrying hope and defiance. The Meridian Dawn turned away from Kravik, its engines burning bright. "They thought we were prey. Now they're fleeing from us. 6 months had passed since the raid on Kravik." The Meridian Dawn had finally made contact with Earth, and the response was beyond anything Minho had hoped for. Humanity had mobilized for war. Earth's orbital shipyards worked around the clock, building warships. Not exploration vessels or colony ships, but true military spacecraft designed for one purpose: to fight and win. Engineers studied every piece of Valthrex technology the Meridian Dawn had sent back. They improved it, weaponized it, and mass-produced it. Admiral Kyung commanded the fleet. She was 50 years old, a veteran of Earth's small space defense force, and she had spent her entire career preparing for a threat from the stars. Now that threat was real, and she was ready. The first human fleet consisted of 40 warships, not many compared to the Valthrex Empire's thousands. But each ship was packed with weapons that combined alien technology with human innovation. Missiles that could track targets through faster-than-light jumps, electromagnetic pulse bombs that could disable entire fleets, and kinetic weapons, simple metal slugs accelerated to impossible speeds. The Valthrex rely on energy shields and armor, Hyun explained to Admiral Kyung during a briefing. He had been brought to Earth to share his knowledge. Their defenses are designed to stop energy weapons. But kinetic weapons, simple metal moving fast enough, they penetrate shields like they're not even there. Kyung smiled. So we're going to throw rocks at them. Very fast rocks, Hyun agreed. But weapons alone would not win the war. Kyung knew that. She studied the Valthrex Empire's structure carefully. They controlled 47 star systems. But those systems were connected by supply lines, communication relays, and trade routes. The Empire was vast but also fragile. Cut the connections and it would collapse. We're not going to fight them head-on, Kyung told her officers. We can't win a straight fight against their numbers. Instead, we hit their infrastructure. Supply depots, communication stations, fuel refineries. We make them chase us. We make them afraid to spread their forces too thin. Captain Minho, now promoted to Commodore and given command of a small battle group, understood the strategy immediately. Guerrilla warfare on an interstellar scale. Exactly, Kyung said. The Valthrex think like predators. They charge straight at threats. We're going to teach them that human prey bites from unexpected angles. The campaign began with a strike on a Valthrex communication relay in an uninhabited system. 3 human ships jumped in, destroyed the station with missile fire, and jumped out before Valthrex reinforcements could arrive. The entire engagement lasted 7 minutes. The Valthrex sent a fleet of 30 ships to protect their other communication stations. That meant 30 ships not defending their supply lines. Human raiders struck fuel depots in 2 different systems simultaneously. The Valthrex fleet rushed to respond, but the humans were already gone. Over the next 3 months, this pattern repeated dozens of times. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck fast and vanished before the Valthrex could organize a proper response. It was frustrating and terrifying for an empire used to crushing enemies through overwhelming force. But the human campaign was about more than just destroying infrastructure. Ji-won, now leading Earth's intelligence division, had discovered something important. The Valthrex Empire controlled many species, but most of them were slaves or subjects. They hated their masters. We need to contact these species, Ji-won told Admiral Kyung. Offer them support. Help them rebel. The Valthrex can't fight us and suppress rebellions at the same time. Kyung agreed, and that was when Dabin's role changed. He was no longer just a security chief. He became a special operations commander, leading teams that infiltrated Valthrex-controlled worlds and made contact with oppressed populations. On a planet called Rena, Dabin met with leaders of the native species. They were called the Renai, a peaceful people who had been conquered by the Valthrex 50 years earlier. They lived under brutal occupation, their resources stolen and their people enslaved. Can you fight? Dabin asked them directly. The Renai leader, an elderly female named Kessa, shook her head sadly. We tried when the Valthrex first came. They slaughtered us. They're too strong. They're not invincible, Dabin said. He showed them footage from Kravik and from the recent human raids. We've been fighting them for months. They bleed, they die. They run away when they're scared. You can beat them, but you need to fight smart, not strong. Over the next weeks, Dabin's team trained the Renai in guerrilla tactics. How to sabotage Valthrex equipment, how to strike from hiding and disappear, how to turn their own world into a trap for their occupiers, and most importantly, how to coordinate with human forces for maximum effect. When the rebellion on Rena began, it caught the Valthrex completely by surprise. Power plants exploded. Supply convoys were ambushed. Valthrex soldiers found themselves under attack from civilians they had dismissed as harmless. And when they tried to retaliate with overwhelming force, human warships appeared in orbit and rained missiles down on their military bases. Rena was not the only world that rebelled. Dabin's teams visited a dozen planets and resistance movements sprang up on all of them. The Valthrex Empire, which had seemed so mighty, began to crack under the pressure. In the Empire's capital, Valthrex leaders argued about how to respond. The conservative faction wanted to crush the rebellions with extreme violence, kill entire populations if necessary. Show the galaxy what happened to those who defied the Empire. The moderate faction urged a different approach. We need to negotiate with the humans. Find out what they want. Make peace before this gets worse. But it was already too late for peace. Earth had not forgotten the initial attack. Humanity remembered their dead and their terror when the Valthrex boarded the Meridian Dawn. This was not about territory or resources. This was about justice and showing the galaxy that humanity could not be preyed upon. Admiral Kyung prepared for the decisive battle. Intelligence reports showed the Valthrex were gathering their grand fleet, thousands of ships assembling for a massive strike. Their target was obvious, Earth itself. The Empire planned to destroy humanity's homeworld and end the threat once and for all. Let them come, Kyung said calmly when she received the news. We'll be ready. Earth's solar system became a fortress. Every planet, moon, and asteroid was equipped with weapons platforms. Orbital stations bristled with missile launchers and railguns. Automated drones waited in hidden positions throughout the system. And the human fleet positioned itself not in orbit around Earth, but scattered throughout the system, ready to strike from multiple angles. The Valthrex will expect us to defend Earth directly, Kyung explained to her commanders. They'll bring overwhelming force to break through a defensive line. But there won't be a line. There will be a web. They'll enter our system and find themselves surrounded. Dr. Soman, now heading Earth's Biological Warfare Division, contributed her own weapons. She had studied Valthrex biology from samples captured during the early raids. Now she had developed viruses and bacteria that targeted their specific genetic markers. These weapons were loaded into missiles ready to deploy. I don't like using biological weapons, Samin admitted to Kyung. It feels wrong, even against enemies like the Valthrex. I understand, Kyung said. But they started this war. They attacked us without provocation. They hunted our people for sport. We're going to end it using every advantage we have. That's not cruelty. That's survival. The Valthrex Grand Fleet arrived 3 months later. They jumped into the solar system at its outer edge. Thousands of ships appearing in a massive display of power. Their commander broadcast a message on all frequencies. Humans of Earth, you have caused chaos throughout our empire. You have destroyed our property. You have encouraged rebellion. You have killed our soldiers. For these crimes, your species will be eliminated. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Admiral Kyung broadcast her own reply. This is Admiral Kyung of the United Earth Defense Force. You attacked us first. You killed our people. You took prisoners and hunted them. Everything that has happened since is the consequence of your actions. You thought we were prey. Now you'll learn what happens when prey fights back. There will be no surrender. Only victory or death. The Valthrex fleet advanced toward Earth, confident in their numbers. They had faced human raids and small battles, but never the full might of their empire against one target. They expected Earth's defenses to crumble quickly. Instead, they flew into hell. The first wave of human weapons hit when the Valthrex fleet passed Jupiter. Kinetic weapons launched from hidden platforms on the planet's moon struck at impossible velocities. Valthrex shields designed to stop energy beams were useless. Metal slugs punched through armor and hulls, destroying ships instantly. The fleet tried to adjust, spreading out to avoid concentrated fire. That was when the drone swarms attacked. Thousands of small automated craft swarmed over Valthrex ships like insects, attaching themselves to hulls and detonating. Each drone was small, but thousands of them together could tear apart even the largest warship. Electromagnetic pulse weapons fired next, not from ships, but from satellites hidden throughout the system. Entire sections of the Valthrex fleet went dark as their systems failed. They thought we were prey. Now they're fleeing from us. The human fleet arrived at the Valthrex homeworld 3 months after the Battle of Sol. Admiral Kyung commanded not just Earth's warships now, but also vessels from a dozen other species that had joined the alliance. The Renni sent their entire navy, small but eager. Other races that had suffered under Valthrex rule contributed what they could. Together they surrounded the planet that had been the center of an empire. Commodore Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the world below. It was beautiful, with purple oceans and green continents. Cities covered the surface, home to billions of Valthrex civilians. He thought about how easy it would be to destroy it all. One massive bombardment and the empire would be finished forever. But that was not the human way. Open a channel, Minho ordered. Let me speak to their leadership. The Valthrex government had been in chaos since the defeat at Sol, their grand fleet destroyed, their military scattered, and rebellions erupting on dozens of worlds. They had gone from masters of their region of space to a species facing extinction in less than a year. The current Valthrex leader appeared on the screen. His name was Theron, and he looked exhausted. The arrogance that had defined his species was gone, replaced by fear and desperation. "What do you want, human?" Theron asked quietly. "I want you to listen," Minho said. "1 year ago, your ships attacked mine. You killed my people. You took prisoners and hunted them for sport. You did this because you thought we were weak. You judged us by our appearance and decided we were prey. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was not finishing the job. You left survivors, and we survivors came back." Theron said nothing, so Minho continued. "Now your empire is broken. Your fleets are destroyed. The species you conquered are rebelling. We have your homeworld surrounded, and I have enough firepower in orbit to turn your planet into ash. Do you understand your situation?" "Yes," Theron whispered. "Good. Now here are your options. Option 1, you fight. We destroy your military completely, and your species becomes extinct. Option 2, you surrender. You accept our terms and your people survive. Choose." The Valthrex leader looked at Minho with something like confusion. "You're offering terms? You're not going to destroy us?" "That's the difference between humans and Valthrex," Minho said. "You conquered and killed for pleasure. We fight for survival and justice. We don't enjoy war. We're very good at it, but we don't enjoy it. So yes, I'm offering terms. But understand this. If you refuse, if you fight, we will finish what you started, and there will be no mercy." Theron consulted with his advisors for several hours. Finally, he returned to the screen. "What are your terms?" Dr. Soman had helped draft the peace treaty. She insisted it needed to be fair, not vengeful. "If we're too harsh, we'll just be planting the seeds for another war," she argued. "But if we're too soft, they'll rebuild and attack again. We need balance." The terms were clear and strict. The Valthrex Empire was dissolved. Their military was reduced to a small defense force, enough to protect their homeworld but nothing more. All conquered species were freed immediately. Valthrex citizens who had run hunting preserves or committed war crimes would face trial, and the Valthrex would pay reparations to the species they had harmed. Most importantly, the Valthrex would join a new galactic council, a democratic organization where all species had equal representation. No more empires, no more prey and predator, just cooperation and mutual respect. "These terms are harsh," Theron said after reading them. "They're just," Minho replied. "You're lucky we're offering them at all. Take the deal." The Valthrex signed the treaty. They had no choice. Their alternative was extinction. With the war over, humanity faced a new challenge: what to do with victory. Other species in the galaxy were watching carefully. Some saw humans as liberators. Others feared them as the new dominant power. Ambassador Yunji, who had survived the hunting preserve and gone on to lead diplomatic efforts, understood this fear. She addressed the newly formed Galactic Council in its first session. "We know what you're thinking," she said to the assembled representatives. "You're wondering if humans will become the next Valthrex. You're afraid we'll use our military power to build our own empire. I understand that fear, but let me tell you what humans really are." She gestured to the other human delegates: Minho, Kyung, Dabin, Hyun, Jiwon, Somin, Taeyang. Each of them had played crucial roles in the war. "We're teachers who learned to fight. We're engineers who turned their creativity to weapons. We're doctors who developed biological warfare. We're scientists who became soldiers. We did these things not because we wanted to, but because we had to. The Valthrex attacked us and we defended ourselves. We didn't start this war, but we finished it." Yunji's voice grew stronger. "Now the war is over and we want to go back to being who we really are. Explorers, scientists, builders. We want to learn from you and share what we know. We want to be part of a galactic community based on cooperation, not conquest. But understand this. If anyone threatens us again, if anyone thinks humans are prey, we will defend ourselves. And we're very, very good at it." The council chamber fell silent. Then slowly, delegates from other species began to applaud. Not all of them, but enough. Humanity had proven itself not just in war, but in peace. The following years brought enormous changes. The Galactic Council established laws against slavery and genocide. Trade routes opened between hundreds of worlds. Technology and culture flowed freely between species. And humanity, once unknown, became a central part of galactic civilization. But humans did not forget the war. Earth maintained a strong military, and Admiral Kyung continued to train new generations of officers. "We hope we never have to fight again," she told her students. "But we'll be ready if we must. That's the price of peace. Eternal vigilance." The Meridian Dawn, the ship that had started everything, finally completed its original mission. It established a colony on a beautiful world that reminded people of Earth. But this colony was different. It was protected by a defensive fleet. It welcomed settlers from multiple species, and it served as a symbol of cooperation and hope. On the colony's dedication day, Captain Minho gave a speech. He was older now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face. But his eyes were still sharp and his voice was strong. "This colony exists because we refused to quit. When the Valthrex attacked us, they thought we would die quietly. They were wrong. We fought back. We survived, we won, and now we're building something better than what existed before." He paused, looking at the crowd. Humans stood next to Rennie. Former Valthrex soldiers worked alongside the species they had once oppressed. Children of different races played together, seeing each other not as prey or predator but as friends. "They thought we were prey," Minho continued. "They judged us by our appearance. They saw us as weak because we didn't have claws or armor. They didn't understand that human strength comes from our minds, our determination, and our refusal to accept defeat. They learned. The whole galaxy learned," Minho smiled. "Now they know the truth. Humans are not prey. We're not predators either, not really. We're survivors. We're the species that looked at a harsh world and decided to master it. We're the species that saw stars and decided to reach them. We're the species that faced extinction and chose to fight. That's what makes us dangerous when threatened, and that's what makes us valuable as allies." The crowd cheered. Above them, in orbit, warships stood ready to protect the colony. But Minho hoped those ships would never be needed. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was part of the galactic community now, respected and occasionally feared, but mostly just accepted. Years later, a young Valthrex student asked her teacher about the human war. "Why did we attack them if they were so dangerous?" The teacher, who had been a soldier during the war, shook his head sadly. "We didn't know. We judged them by appearance. We thought their lack of natural weapons made them weak. We didn't understand that humans don't need claws or fangs. They have something better: intelligence, creativity, and an absolute refusal to quit. By the time we learned the truth, it was too late." "Are humans still dangerous?" the student asked. "Yes," the teacher said, "but only to those who threaten them or the innocent. To friends and allies, they're the best partners you could ask for. They're loyal, creative, and generous. The key is to never make them your enemy." The student thought about this. So what should we remember about humans? The teacher's answer was simple. Remember that appearances can be deceiving. Remember that the greatest predator is not always the one with the biggest claws. And remember that when humans say they're not prey, they mean it. They'll prove it if they have to, and you don't want them to have to prove it to you. On Earth, in a museum dedicated to the war, visitors could see artifacts from the Meridian Dawn. The damaged hull plating from the first attack. The improvised weapons Hyun had built. The communication device Yoonji had used to send her distress signal. And most prominently, a memorial listing the names of everyone who had died. Above the memorial, words were inscribed. They were from Captain Minho's first speech after the attack, when he had promised to get their people back. "They thought we were prey. They were wrong. Humans are survivors, and we never forget." Children visiting the museum asked,